issued. There's an image of the rose, the thistle, and the daffodil, which are the flowers of England, Scotland, and Wales. But as I've said, these images have two meanings, and they have two, they have a duality. And this image that no one knows what it is, it's on a page called Reserved for Observations Only, with a number 11 on the page. It's basically showing a diagram of the chakra system. And you can correlate that because basically the heart chakra lines up with an image of a heart, and the solar plexus chakra aligns up with an image of a sun. So basically you've got this thing, but even more concerning, or not concerning, on the root chakra and the crown chakra, it's signed with a inverted pentagram.
Really?
So if you think about that, there's an inverted pentagram on your crown chakra and your root chakra. Now, I don't know what that's symbolically saying, but it's obviously involving spiritualism.
Yeah.
And if this is in the UK passport, I mean, it's beyond me that our government have ever acknowledged the chakras. I've never known that in my entire life.
Yeah.
But as a further proof to the New World Order religion is going to be based on spirituality, the Tibetan flag. I don't know if you've seen this. I've recently picked this up myself because of all the kerfuffle with the Olympic torch and the Dalai Lama and everything.
Yeah.
Basically, it's become pretty apparent that the Free Tibet movement was funded by the CIA. Because it was a way to rise up against China. But essentially, like, ignoring that, if you look at the Tibetan Buddhist flag, or the Tibetan flag that they used from 1912 to 1950, which is banned by China now, if you look at that, it depicts what is a mountain, but it's not a mountain, it's a pyramid. And at the top of the pyramid is a sun. Right? So essentially you've got a pyramid with an all-seeing eye on the banned Tibetan flag that the Tibetan Buddhists used to represent themselves. So what is that saying about Tibet in 1912 to 1950 when they used that flag? It's almost like it's a blueprint for, the New World Order's religion of sorts, based on meditation, spirituality, chakras, and, all that goes with it.
I mean, I'm looking at a picture of the Tibetan flag right now, and even the fact that there's two, lions, if you will, that is holding up the eternal flame, and even the word itself, if you look at pyramidion or pyramidos, I should say, that's basically fire in the middle. So I mean, they give you the hint right there that this is a pyramid, and then you have the sun in the backdrop. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So
you've got this thing, and I've got a recent picture of the Dalai Lama sat giving a press conference, and his head was aligned perfectly with the back of that sun. And this is what I'm trying. This is where I'm moving to some weird stuff, because obviously this New World Order religion is basically still sun worship, but it's based on spiritual sun worship. It's going to combine Islam and Christianity, and it's through the emergence of ISIS and the resurrection of a sun god. This is how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the thing is, obviously, New Age talk, conspiracy theories, and all of this stuff that's put out there, these are low-level distractions and stuff. And obviously, the New Age spirituality movement, it's not a bad thing in itself, but essentially, if you look at where it probably started from something very different to what we expect. Do you know what I mean? This whole moving into the age of Aquarius and the whole New Age stuff.
Well, of course. I mean, I mean, from my point of view, at least at this point, from what I've picked up on so far, this is the reason also for why they are reverting back to all of these, esoteric, some would say even pagan, if they come from a Christian background, what have you. But the reason for it is that I think that there is a spiritual truth in many of the methods, so to speak, that they actually use to control people, meaning that there actually is something real to this. And they have known this for a very long time, but they consequently either manipulate people in the other direction, and consequently say that that's all bollocks, don't look at that. We have your religion right here for you. We call it Christianity, what have you. And I consider many of the religions that we have around today basically is a reformation from the oldest ancient religions, going back to the ancient world of Cana, Egypt, what have you, And it doesn't matter in what package they sell it to us. If you're smart enough, you're going to be able to see through that. If you're clouded by too much of the manipulation, that's unfortunate, but in many cases it's people's own choice, and I have nothing against that either,
No, that's of course you can't dictate that at all, can you?
No.
I mean, essentially, like, thing that I'm trying to get across what I'm trying to say. I mean, I've moved into an area that Matthew Deleuze touches on. I think you've spoke to Matthew Deleuze before.
Yeah.
But essentially, for me, the power structure that remained in power, or that started, something that built the pyramid, that got the people to build the pyramid, was a very powerful force. And in the history of, well, I've got a particular book called The Secret History of the World by Jonathan Black. It's an esoteric secret history of the world. And this particular book states how that since, the early days, we're getting more and more ingrained in matter. We're moving, like everyone thinks of evolution in a material sense, but consciousness has equally gone through an evolution, moving from the spirit, drawing itself down into material matter over time. And so, for instance, when you listen to the Egyptian stories of Zep Tepi the first time, and the state that the gods ruled the earth, or ruled Egypt, sorry, and then the gods retracted, so they built statues, effigies for people to worship to. And then eventually, after the gods had retracted so much, the pharaohs then ruled the earth for the gods, or ruled Egypt for the gods. And then, essentially, went from statue worship to idol worship into what we're currently at. We're at celebrity star worship, pop idols.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. Madonna, all this lot. It's all part of the same thing.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Continue.
But my thing is that obviously the Egyptian power structure that was in place then has never died out. Because if you look at the way the power structure has moved, like essentially when Egypt collapsed, you had the Exodus from Moses and stuff into the area of Israel and Palestine. And then the next major power structure was essentially with Rome. And if you go to Rome, you'll notice that there's Egyptian obelisks in front of the Vatican, in front of the Pantheon and stuff like that. They carried those things over there from Egypt.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Roman Catholics went on the Inquisition, slaughtering out any heretical religions such as like the Cathars and the Bogomils. Moved through Europe and then essentially found a new power structure to erect in Paris. And obviously Paris has got, it's symbolic for power Aziz, it's already in the word.
Yeah.
But Paris, they moved the obelisks and stuff, Place de la Concorde on the Champs-Élysées alignment.
Yeah.
You got that whole symbolic area. And when I went there the other day, incidentally, I went to the front of the Louvre, and they've got a aerial viewpoint of the layout of the Louvre, and it's an exact replica of Luxor Temple, with the Avenue of Sphinxes running to Karnak Temple in Egypt, because I've been to the same place and I've recognised this. But there's no official statement anywhere that the Louvre is based on Egyptian temples and alignments and stuff, but it is, obviously.
Of course.
So this power structure, then once it had done in Paris, it decided that it wanted to find the new centre of power, and it moved to London. And if you go to London, they've got an obelisk and stuff like that. You've got Big Ben. The official story is that Big Ben was named after this politician named Ben, who stood up in Parliament and said, "Oh, let's call it Big Ben," and everyone laughed and said yes.
Yeah.
But it's not called Big Ben because of that. It's named after the Ben stone, which is one of the very first. It stands proud in Egyptian history.
Of course, and even in Hebrew, Ben is the son of someone, so it's the big son.
Yeah, Yeah, so the Big Ben, for instance, is a huge obelisk type structure right near the obelisk and the London Eye, which is symbolic again for the all-seeing eye.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And then obviously this power structure moved from London to America. And then there we have it. America has been used as an excuse to run all these wars that it's needed to run until it's collapsed itself into the ground, and then America will die. And that's how I see it. America's been used, essentially, and they've used the people there.
Well, and that's also an interesting point. I mean, there's so much to touch upon on that, but just to be brief about it, even the fact that I think that they want that if we talk about America as an experiment, if you will, and much in the same way that we can look at the Soviet Russia as an experiment, but or communist Russia, but they might have wanted a certain kind of stock, if you will, of people or a certain type of breed, those who were willing to draw out the roots from their own country and just leave and have a certain type of mentality. And if you take all these different things into account, you end up with a really interesting picture that potentially is showing you that what you're mentioning here, that they wanted to use America for a specific purpose. But anyway, please continue. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if we're going on this premise that this power structure's been there and it's never died out and stuff, and then obviously you start looking at the English words and the language and stuff like that, and we're all connecting back to this idea of scion, and then you start thinking, essentially, with English words, as I've said, you've got the word television, televi scion.
Yeah.
So basically, you know, everyone thinks the television is an evil hypnotic machine anyhow, I mean, other than the ones who enjoy it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's there to televise scion.
Yeah.
And then you think of the word spiritual ascension, spiritual ascend scion. It's the same, it's in the words of what we use.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's endemic and it's there, you can't get away from it.
Of course. And vision or scion, that's even the eye in there, you know, because it has to do with visualization or to see see something, you know, so.
Yeah. But this is, I mean, this is where, like, I can start to, like, wrap this thing up slightly.
Yeah.
Is that, if you look at it, it starts becoming apparent that it's more to do with just, like, for instance, it's more to do than just someone hijacking a power structure and keeping it, like, in control. It's almost like it's, you know, to do with material reality itself. It starts to feel like that it's coming from something that's, you know, if you think of us as souls and spirits trapped in matter, then, like, this is where I'm starting to, like, perceive things, in the sense of, if you look at all religious figures throughout history, every single one of these illuminated, enlightened figures, every single one of them has a sun behind their heads.
Yeah.
Right, so sun worship, again.
Yeah.
And Christmas, for instance, you can't get away from Christmas. I mean, Matthew Deleuze talks about this stuff, and I recommend listening to Matthew Deleuze, because he's a very intelligent man, and he's a very, very special man. But Christmas, obviously, we're all driven into this worship of the sun at Christmas. You can't get away from it. If you've got kids or if you're related to kids, you need to be part of it. You know, we all buy into this Christmas thing. Christmas is sun worship. If you look at the tree that you've got in your living room, you know, it's like the tinsel is a serpent. You've got an all-seeing eye at the top. You've got a bloody pagan tree, you know, pyramid thing that's sat in the corner of your room.
Yeah.
And then Easter, obviously, again, it's more sun worship. And when kids, for instance, are all wanting the Easter eggs and stuff, it's nothing to do with the fact they're eating chocolate. They're buying into a ritual. They're buying into more sun worship, whether you look at it or not.
Yeah.
And the same goes with, like, for instance, crematoriums that haven't got any kind of religion tied to them. If you look at crematoriums, there's sun symbolism at crematoriums. You look at number 10 Downing Street, above the number 10, there's a sun symbol, like above the, you know, the centre of where our Prime Minister resides. You look at Shell Petrol, and it's sun symbolism, you know. And then, for instance, something I found the other day, my UK driving licence, there's a hologram you can barely see, but I shone it in the light. It's a sun and a pyramid on my driving licence in Britain.
Yeah.
You know, something you'd expect on the dollar bill. And so all I can say is that, essentially, with this symbolism, when people don't realise what they're looking at and what they're buying into, this stuff is like taking spiritual energy away from them. I.e., it's, you know, they don't realise what it's doing. I don't know how to really put that into words, but it's like, we've only got our five senses, and, like, we're aware of everything within those five senses, but much like with the, you know, the light spectrum, we're not aware of what microwaves and X-rays and infrared rays and everything are doing. There's stuff we don't understand, and, like, our five senses are a filter.
Yeah.
And it's almost like that these symbols that have all been, like, fed with energy from, you know, if it was like a talisman, like they feed the energy from the stars in ancient Egypt, that's how they used to do it. It's working on some level we can't comprehend, that's, you know, basically trapping and deceiving us here all the time.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, in my opinion, when you die and you get these references to people saying, I met Jesus and all this kind of stuff, and they tell you that they met these enlightened beings and everything,
yeah,
because they're so familiar with this symbolism, because they haven't asked what it's all about or anything like that. It's almost like if you, for instance, meet Jesus when you die and you go with him, and he'll tell you can be a lawyer next time, and he'll send you back around again.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's like you're encapsulated in this, as the Tibetans believe, and Tibetan is the New World Order religion, in my opinion. They believe in reincarnation. And so the reason why the reincarnation happens is if you're still duped by this symbolism when you go through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.